Welcome to Mindless Entertainment. My name is Jesse Milestone, and this is meant to offend. So if you're offended, good. And this is going to offend pretty much everybody who was a diehard fan of the earlier seasons of Game of Thrones. Because guess what? They were never that good. You're deluding yourself, and you were deluding yourself the entire time. And before you go and cry and freak out and scream at, you just don't understand, it's just not a fan, you don't appreciate it the way you do. Shut the fuck up. I read all the books. Every single book. All of the books. Before I ever watched an episode of the show, all the books that George R. R. Martin has bothered to write thus far, I have read. And I was, at some points curious about the show. At other points, I thought, I don't know. It was in the place where I was going to wait. If I ever watched it, I was going to wait until all of the books were done written. What a fool's errand that was. And then I was going to maybe dabble in the show and see what was up. Part of it is like, I didn't want to get ahead in the show. I knew it was probably going to get ahead of the books. And I was like, I don't want that. I want to read what the books have to say first before it's colored by the show in any way. And also I know that the show is going to have less than what's in the books. And so I kind of want to get through it to see how they visually do certain things. But outside of that, I don't need the show, but I'm curious, so I wasn't coming in going, fuck this from the beginning, but I also wasn't coming in, with rose-colored glasses on. And the reason I did end up diving into the show was because, like I said, I'd finished all the books. And at some point, I just got sick of not knowing what happens to Jon Snow. So when the show surpassed that in the timeline, it had been like a couple years, and I was like, well, shit, it was on that like 2-year stretch or whatever between seasons 5 and 6, right? I was like, it seems like a good time. Got plenty of effing time to get caught up. Seems like a good time to start. So I dove in, and I was immediately underwhelmed by many, many things. Some things were great. Some things were really impressive. I gotta hand it to them. One of the things Game of Thrones really knew how to do was use its budget well to always make the show pop, even before it was like super uber budget show. And yeah, guys, special effects, big budgets and stuff can win awards. All right, so you win all the Emmys, it can't be terrible. What do you know? Yeah, okay. So if we're using awards now as the metric for what is good and bad, fuck you. I don't play those games. No, that's ridiculous. I'm not going to listen to your foolish arguments. It won an Emmy. Doesn't count. So did, Titanic won an Oscar, and I still don't think that is a Best Picture movie, but other people do. Shakespeare in Love. Whatever. Fight me on it. I don't care. The point is that it does do some things well. Yeah, some of the casting, I thought it did a great job. Certain visual moments. God, the series death pouring molten gold on the guy's head was great. Pedro Pascal's face getting crushed. Awesome. Wonderfully done moments, beautiful visuals, and like I said, the use of the budget, you know exactly how much dragon to use so they can pay for it to look finished and great, as opposed to things like The Hobbit, which is like, we'll just use gratuitous dragon, and then the mice look fucking retarded. How did the CGI mice look that bad in The Hobbit? Anyway, I digress. Point is that I'm not saying it's all trash. I'm not saying it's all garbage, but it really doesn't hold up as a show for a lot of reasons. And not just because it doesn't leave so much out of the books. And that's not what I'm going to whinge and whine about here, but it does. It does leave a lot of the books, which wouldn't be a problem if it utilized its on-screen time well. But from the very beginning, the show suffered from the same problem. Long fucking winded talking scenes. In fact, Game of Thrones may be one of the culprits that began this bullshit phase in modern television and film writing, which is like, actually understanding the basics of writing a script, which is show, don't tell, which is if your character has to say things like, as you already know, or like give you an unnecessary amount of exposition, it's probably wrong. Or if your scene is just two people standing in a room talking for 10 fucking minutes, you should probably think about doing something else in that scene. So right from the very beginning, I'm watching a show where I'm like, okay, about this point in the books, these other 8,000 action things are happening. Why am I watching fucking Tyrion Lannister and fucking Cersei Lannister in a room drinking wine, fucking being passive aggressive to each other for 10 minutes again? Why? It's like a goddamn soap opera at that point. And so again, it's not like you don't have material to draw from. It's not like you don't have more action. A great example. You have things like, especially later on, when this is a huge complaint I have as the show gets later. And like even the middle season, I'm not talking like 6 and 7, no one gets past the books, and it's all falls apart, blah, blah, blah. Even in like the 4th and 5th season, when you're like, all right, I know Jon Snow dies at the end of the season, so where's all the build up? We got people talking in rooms, talking in rooms, talking in rooms. I'm away from all the action. Let me get over there. It's like, okay, these 3 things happened when you weren't looking. So now we're gonna have these guys talk in a room for 10 more minutes. And Melisandre the end. And it's like they wait till the end of the goddamn show to show you one. That's why everyone thinks they like it, by the way, because y'all watch it in real time. And they waste your entire episode. They give you the one teaser. It's like a goddamn soap opera. It is exactly like a soap opera. They wait till the end of the goddamn episode to give you the quick teaser, the one bit of action. You're like, oh my God, that was so good. But if you actually think back, you're like, why couldn't they have done that 12 more times in the rest of this episode? Well, it doesn't work that way. Yeah, it fucking does. The reason I came to this final conclusion, and I'm so incensed about it, is not just out of the blue. I'm not just out of the blue like, fuck Game of Thrones, right? I started watching Peaky Blinders. Peaky Blinders, Netflix show, or show on Netflix. I think Netflix show, yeah. Fucking phenomenal. It's a mob show. It's awesome. It stars Cillian Murphy. There's a season with Tom Hardy, and it's delightful. These are like hour-long episodes, right? I can't believe how much they put into each episode. There are times I'm like, oh my God, are we still in the same episode? There are times when we're like, oh my God, it feels like this has been an entire episode, and we're still in the 10-minute opening hook. It's a masterful. Each one is a mini movie. So much happens in every episode. So much. And yes, there are some extended talking scenes layered in between moments of actual action, things happening. And that's the thing. In the talking scenes, things happen. Somebody's life may be at stake. Even for Christ's sakes, even like having like moments of dominant struggles over what type of drink you are or aren't drinking happen, which is more interesting than Tyrion going back to the craft over and over again to pour more wine while Cersei creepily paces around the room or sits on the bed or whatever, refuses to drink or indulges in whatever. Either way, they have the same stupid fight over and fucking over again. It's so droll. Like, the moments that they do well are so well, but they are so few and far between. If I tallied them up, I could probably count them on 2 hands. You know, if I added a couple toes in there, we'd have every bit of action pretty much covered. Like, there's an entire episode in the 7th season that's a banquet, for fuck's sake. There's a huge banquet in an episode of Peaky Blinders. That's the very end of an episode in which 1,000,001 things have been set up prior to it. And you've been building and waiting for this banquet the entire episode. And then you get there. And goddamn does it pay off in immense ways. Holy shit. And that's in an hour. There were some, hour and 20 minutes of Game of Thrones episodes that didn't have that much going on in them. This show is an abomination compared to what it could be. That's, again, the source material. So, I was going to give you an example. Quentin Martell. If you guys aren't familiar with the books, this is a great example of a way you could have literally is like a 3-episode arc, or in a 1 hour and 20-minute episode, or 2 episodes of Game of Thrones, you could have packed this entire story arc in, which is fun, full of action, ties the Martells more into the main story, and could have you could have done it easily by just shaving, not even taking anything out, just shaving 2 minutes here and there off of some of your insanely long fucking talking scenes. And you could have had the Quentin Martell plot, right? Where the Martells send one of their sons across the sea to try to court Daenerys and, get their foot in on the Iron Throne and all that shiznap. And she's like, I don't like you. And so he's like, okay, well, since you're off moping somewhere, I'll go steal your other dragons while you're gone. And you're like, oh my God, this is gonna be like a whole thing. And like, this guy is gonna be this huge part of this plot. And then he goes down to try to woo the dragons. And they're like, fuck this. And they just burn him to death. He's just dead. So that's it. It's like a neat little, you can introduce him and get rid of him. Christ, there's so many more useless, pointless things in Game of Thrones, but at least this one has us watching a guy get burned up. at least this one has that excitement that George R. R. Martin had in his books of introducing characters that seem important and snatching their lives away. Because, of course, naturally, that was one of the things that fell off once you get star power involved, and once you get, ratings that you're worried about. You lose that, the thing that made that show so special, and the books obviously so special, which is that anyone could die at any moment. And thus far in the writing, George R. R. Martin has more or less preserved that. This Quentin Martell thing happened, not all that long ago in the book plot. So you're like, oh, goddamn, that was abrupt and exciting. The show takes out so many, again, talking scenes. How dry does some of the Daenerys stuff get until she's like, outside of her like going back and burning down the widow's place in the fucking with the riding horse people words. There's just so much of just like advisors advising her, men trying to seduce her, a whole lot of decisions being made and us not seeing how they pan out ever. You know what would have made that stuff so much more entertaining? Strong Belwas! Strong Belwas would have made that all so much entertaining, and it would have been so easy to do. He's basically just Drax from Guardians of the Galaxy. He's a scarred up dude who's just like, I'm a strong guy, ha ha ha, comic relief. God, could that show have used a little bit of just good old comic relief like that in a place like that. Strong Belwas, such a fan favorite from the books, so easy to put in the show. And then also something you can pay off as, a fan favorite death later on to, kill off a character that doesn't have huge relevance to the plot, but relevance to us, so we still feel that oh no-ness, that cut to the bone of losing a character that we actually give a shit about. These are little things, and again, things that all you had to do is not cut out any of the precious plot material they wanted to put in there, but take some of these insanely long blah 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 back and forth just fucking talking scenes and put that. It's not even like you have to extend the budget so much more. All right, dump a little bit into one Bernie up effect. You don't even have to show the dragon that much. Show a reflection of an eye and a big fucking pyro effect. They're not all that expensive. You don't have to use CGI for the pyro effect. God, it's not that difficult to spice it up a little bit. And it's just like, it's the laziest way out. And it's because we ultimately as viewers give these creators that laziness. We give them permission to be lazy when we go, oh my God, it's a dragon. It's all I care about is the dragon. And we fail to be critical of what's actually in front of our eyes. It is so important to not just accept what we're told to accept if it does not measure up to what we understand is out there, what people are capable of making. And you can go find examples. Peaky Blinders is just one of shows that are doing it right, of shows that can balance character development, plot development, and action, and actually move the story along in ways that's more captivating than just, oh my God, look at these fancy characters, and look at Peter Dinklage doing a British accent. I mean, it's so transparent. Like, that's coming into the show later. It becomes so transparent because at this point, Peter Dinklage has won several Emmys. Lena Headey has become this huge fan favorite character for people now. And so, yeah, it makes it's so glaringly, painfully obvious how many times they try to shove the two of them in a room together to fucking talk at each other. It is not good writing. It never was. They got certain things right, yes, just because they were able to translate some spectacular visual moments that somebody else had already created onto the screen. That doesn't mean there was any writing triumph. Going back and taking that whole that show as its entirety, I would never ask Benioff and Weiss to helm any project ever, and I don't even need to see the last two seasons to make that distinction. So take it for what you will, cry, freak out, tell me I'm full of shit, because of course you will. But it's all because you can't fucking face the fact that I'm right. And that's it. So if you're offended, fantastic. If you're not, I'll try harder next time. And guys, there's a couple really exciting things going on right now. My primary place of creation is over on a platform called LIVIT. That's all capitals, LIVIT, where my username is at m.e.godempress. It's Mindless Entertainment, God Empress. And I'm playing a lot of music over there as well as doing other fun things to entertain you. I'm spending a lot of my time on LIVIT because YouTube sucks. I hate YouTube. It's terrible. Whenever I reach out for answers on why certain things on my channel don't work the same way as they do on other people's channels, I get radio silence or runaround answers. So I am done. I'm finding other platforms that pay me better. So if you do like me and want to support me, there's so many ways to do it. Make sure you click on my link tree. There's places you can go to my PayPal to do that. You can check me out on LIVIT, etc. Also, my Patreon is no longer dormant. It is chock full of new activity. There are videos, there's behind the scenes, blah, 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 fun pictures, just a whole lot more. Your God Empress over there on Patreon. That's Mindless Entertainment over on Patreon. So make sure you're checking that out. And not just for me, but find out other ways off of YouTube to support your favorite creators, because YouTube does take an unnecessary amount of our revenue. And, you know, we work hard for it. They don't. So look for different ways to support and reward your creators. And that's all. So God Empress